Hey, welcome back to the videos. This is part 2 in our revisiting of John Hardy. The last video we looked at some ideas for the low break. In this video I thought it would be cool to go up the neck and experiment with an up the neck break. John Hardy is one of those tunes that people tend to associate with low position stuff, and we've explored some cool ideas to spice up the song down here. But now let's move the melody up to the up the neck region. Now, one thing that I always try to keep in mind, and something I'll suggest to you, is when you play up the neck, remember the reason you're going up the neck is because there's a drastic difference in the sound of your banjo up here. So when you roll and play different fill-in ideas, they tend to be different. I want to represent the melody in this solo because I want to stay true to the melody no matter where I go. But one thing to watch out for is you can find those exact same notes up the neck. So to me, and these are just my thoughts, if you go up the neck and everything you play sounds exactly like you played here, then you're kind of defeating the purpose of going up the neck. So even though I found the notes down here, typically when you go up the neck you want to find those notes in a different way, maybe a different octave. So I'm going to start with that. Let's try to find those notes for the A part somewhere else. Now for me, an octave higher is going to be putting me here at the 14th and 16th fret. That's my D chord. I'm going to give you a zoom in a second. So that's going to be my starting point, but I don't want to roll the same. So in other words, again, that's another octave higher, which sounds cool, sounds different than this. But if I try to use the same rolls with the same syncopation, put the same spaces between them, then I'm really just carbon copying that solo up here. So again, these are my thoughts and some advice to you. When you go up the neck, try to assemble the melody notes in different ways. You don't have to play everything verbatim from here to here. Even if you could, it would sound cliched. And this leads me to another thought. One way that you hear a lot of players solo up the neck over songs is they'll say, well, I've played the melody here. I'm not going to play the melody up here. I'm just going to play licks and riffs and things, rolls over chords. And that's cool, and your improvisation over John Hardy would be nice and cool. But after a while, if you keep using the same ideas like these partials, and that's your solo for John Hardy, and then that's your solo for Foggy Mountain Breakdown, and then that's your solo for Lonesome Road Blues, after a while it starts to sound cliched because you're just using the same licks and rolls over all the songs you play up the neck. So one approach that can help your playing tremendously, I think, is to concentrate on finding melody when you go up the neck. Transpose a melody an octave higher. And then when you do find the melody, get away from the same rolls and the same patterns. So having said all that, let's kind of break this down. I think I'll have to change my camera angle to get you down here far enough. So let me zoom in on that portion of the fingerboard, see if I can stay in the camera shot. And what we're going to focus on first is the A part. And we know that's over a D chord, so I'm using the D chord at 14 and 16. And the melody notes are the second string out of the chord at 15, then the first string at 16, 17, and then eventually I'll have to wind up in a bar A, play 1, 2, 3. But I don't want to sound like I'm carbon copying my solo. So what I'm going to do is switch to an idea that you'll hear a lot, especially in more modern banjo playing circles, is to play harmonized string pairs, which is big fancy talk for one of the strings being melody, the other string is just harmony. So whatever rolls I want to play over these two notes out of the D chord, it doesn't matter. The first string will be my melody note. The second string gives me one melody note, but then I'll immediately switch to this. I need a way to kind of get into this, so I'm going to give myself a walk up. Third string at 14. Third string at 16, second string at 14. Now when I play the second string at 15, there's my melody note. So this is like an up the neck equivalent of your walk up. of a single string approach. Now when I've played the second string, I'm immediately going to leave that string and get to these two harmony notes. I'm going to use a pattern that's based on the Foggy Mountain breakdown roll. 2-1, 2-1, 5-2-1. It'll be variated a little bit. And then I'm going to go up here, which looks like a partial G major chord. There's no G major chord in John Hardy, and I'm not playing the G major chord, but I'm thinking positionally, where is my harmony going to come from for the first string now? Because here's the melody. So when I'm playing this part, D, that's all over the D chord. So you might think, why am I playing a partial G chord? Well, I just need to go here to keep the harmony the same that I'm hearing in my head. This is the harmony that I want to hear. I want to hear the third string at 16 played against the first string at 17. That happens to be two notes out of a G chord. So I'm using the G chord as a reference point, but not as a chord, which sounds like an oxymoron. I'm not thinking about a G chord because I'm not using G in the song, but I'm using the G position chord. The chord itself is a position marker to help me find my harmony. So here's what I'll have when I put that together. My walk up, second string, now switch to the harmony string. That allows me to syncopate differently. My rolls are different than I put. Spaces are different. I don't, extend notes like I did down here. So playing up the neck, I'm playing in a different octave, an octave higher. I am focusing on the melody, but the melody is syncopated differently. Now what about when I go here? 1, 2, 3 would be the melody. Well, that's kind of simple. I don't want to really play 1, 2, 3. So what I'm going to do is kind of backtrack. This is actually a classic Earl lick that comes from Floyd Kramer, the banjo, the piano player from the 50s and 60s. One of Earl's classic licks that's also listed in his book is a lick that he came up with that's based on Floyd's hammer-ons on the piano. But what I'm going to do is use the second string at 12. It's kind of a pivot point. So I can play the first string here. So you notice my pinky's on the first string at 14, which is my bar chord. So this is a highly syncopated way to represent those melody notes. It's again, our goal is to represent melody, but in a new syncopated way, and to get different tones. Now if I put all this together, I basically have the A part except for one little section. Most of the time there's a little section between those melody parts where you'll actually just doodle around over the A chord. What I'm going to do is just slide up and grab an A chord. You can go anywhere for an A you want, but I'm going to go up here to 17 and 19 and just grab an A chord. You can do any roll you want over any A, but I'm just going to use this one so that I can stay in the same octave range. So when I put this together, I'll have the melody. A filler section will just be this, just the A chord. Now I'm going to come back to the melody. Now I'm ready to go over the long E sections. We know we have 3 measures of E, and you can't see it in the camera now, but I'm back down to my low break. That was all just based on Earl's playing, which is great. It's just noodling around with the E chord down low, but we don't want to really do that up the neck, even though we could just grab an E chord. We could be cool, but I want to get away from just playing in one static position over the three measures like we did here. Again, in my mind, I'm trying to stay away from everything up the neck sounding like everything I played down the neck, or vice versa. So what I'm going to do is stick with my harmonized string ideas. So instead of being here and here for the A part, now I'm going to be working, and all this is played over three measures of E. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll eventually wind up on A. But I'm not going to stay planted statically over this position. I'm going to use the third and first strings as harmony. The first string is my melody note. Oh, let me play it right. That's going to be my representation of the B part as far as melody goes, which is, you know, real stylized, and it's syncopated completely different than down here. The third string is going to be my harmony string. Now I'm going to start moving down. Again, I'm thinking about chord shapes as reference markers. Here's my E. Here's my D. D is in David. Here's my A. And then if I play these two strings, the first and third again, they'll be over my D. So I am cycling through chords, but I'm not thinking in terms of chords as far as playing over them or anything. I'm just using them for reference. The main thing I'm focusing on is the first string is my melody string, and the third string is just harmony. So now I'm going to do kind of the same concept with my right hand. I'm just going to roll kind of a modified Foggy Mountain breakdown pattern. And I'm going to make each one last for 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And when I get here, which I'm moving out of the camera shot, sorry, I'm going to work the bar chord D, because I have one more measure, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I'm going to move the third string back. I'm still not in the camera shot very well. Let me see if I can. Oop, wrong way. Let me backtrack this a little bit. There we go. I want to move the third string back, a la somebody like Don Reno, but I want to keep the other notes down here the same. So I'm going to have to group up my fingers, kind of slam all three fingers together. So that's going to be the last measure. So I have 1. And then you can roll anything you want over that last note. 1. You know, so what we're trying to do is fill those three measures. We did down here. So I'm accomplishing, if I can spit that out, the same thing rhythmically as far as the number of beats go, and I'm also playing kind of an askewed variation of the melody. Gives me a pretty cool sounding break for John Hardy. So I'm going to put this all together. Try to stay in the camera. It's kind of hard to play and keep situated camera wise here. And I'll put all this together. There you have some new ideas for an up the neck break, which if you've never tried John Hardy up the neck, then this is going to be new territory. And again, try to think in terms of melody so that you're just not throwing together licks. Not that there's anything wrong with occasionally throwing together Scruggs licks and playing positions like Sally Gooden position, but if you're not careful and you do that for every solo up the neck, then you lose melody for one thing, and then all your breaks get kind of cliched. It's just recycling of the same licks over every song you play up the neck. So this might also give you some hints if you think about how to find melody up the neck in the second octave, so that you're playing the melody an octave higher, and that will force you to move some things around so your harmony will sound different. Try to get away from the standard rolls, play different patterns, and hopefully this will help you in the long run develop melody breaks up the neck. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll tackle another old classic tune. Thanks.